The transport ship broke through the clouds of dust and gas that surrounded the dead moon. Inside, Park pressed his face against the window and looked at the place where he might die. 7 was gray and lifeless. No plants grew on its surface. No animals walked its empty plains. There was only rock and dust, and the entrance to the mines that had made this tiny moon famous across the galaxy. Famous and feared. Was 34 years old. He had black hair that was starting to show gray at the sides and hands that were rough from years of working with machines and rocks. He had been a mining engineer on Earth before he started taking jobs in space. Good jobs at first, then harder ones, then the ones that nobody else wanted. This job was the one that nobody would take. 3 years ago, miners on 7 had found something in the deep caves. At first they thought it was just another rock formation. Then the rock formation opened its eyes. Then it roared. The sound was so loud that it cracked the walls and broke the machines and killed 4 miners before anyone could run away. That was the beginning. The Galactic Union sent soldiers. The soldiers died. They sent scientists with special equipment. The scientists died too. They sent robots and drones and machines of all kinds. Nothing worked. The creature that lived in the caves could not be killed, could not be moved, and could not be reasoned with. 43 people had died trying. Now was on his way to try again, not because he was brave, not because he thought he could succeed where everyone else had failed. He had volunteered because 2 years ago, a factory fire in his had taken his wife and his young daughter. After that, stopped caring about whether he lived or died. The dangerous jobs were the only ones that made him feel anything at all. The ship landed with a soft bump, grabbed his bag and walked out into the thin air of the moon. A dome covered the landing area, keeping the atmosphere breathable. Beyond the dome, he could see the dark entrance to the mines. His team was waiting for him in the briefing room. Was the first to stand up when he entered. She was 28 years old with short hair and smart eyes behind round glasses. She was someone who studied alien life. For the past year, she had been watching the creature from satellites in orbit, trying to understand it from a safe distance. Minyu stayed seated. He was bigger than, with wide shoulders and a scar on his neck from his time in the Earth military. His job was to keep the team alive and get them out if things went wrong. He had a plasma rifle on the table in front of him and 2 pistols on his belt. Smiled at from her seat by the communication equipment. She was the youngest of the group, only 24, with a round face and friendly eyes. Her job was to stay in contact with the ships waiting in orbit above them. "You are Park?" asked. Nodded and sat down. "Good, we have been waiting for you." She pressed a button, and a hologram appeared in the center of the table. It showed a creature that made stomach tight with fear. The thing was massive. Even in the small hologram, could tell it was bigger than any animal he had ever seen. It had 6 thick legs and a body covered in black armor that seemed to move and shift like oil on water. Its head was flat and wide, with 6 eyes that glowed yellow and a mouth full of teeth that looked like broken glass. "This is what the scientists call said. "The miners called it the howler because of the sound it makes. It has been living in the central chamber of the mine for as long as anyone can remember, maybe thousands of years." Minyu made a sound of disgust. "Ugly thing." "Ugly and deadly," agreed. "Its armor can stop any weapon we have. Its roar can kill a person from 50 meters away, and it attacks anyone who enters its territory." Raised her hand like a student in school. "Why does the Union want us to go down there? If the creature is so dangerous, why not just leave it alone?" Changed the hologram. Now it showed glowing blue crystals, thousands of them, covering the walls of an underground cave. The rarest and most valuable substance in the known galaxy. 1 kilogram can power a city for 100 years. There is enough in that cave to power every planet in the Union for 1,000 years. "So we are here for money," Minyu said. "We are here because the Union ordered us to be here." replied. If we fail, they will destroy the entire moon from space. The will be lost, but at least the creature will be dead. If it can be killed, said quietly. No one had an answer for that. Studied the hologram of the creature. Something about it bothered him, but he could not say what. It was not just the size or the teeth or the glowing eyes. There was something in the way it held itself, in the position of its legs and the angle of its head. Show me the videos, he said, the ones from the other teams. Looked surprised but did as he asked. The hologram changed to show recorded footage from helmet cameras. Watched team after team enter the caves. He watched them set up equipment and point weapons and try to communicate with loudspeakers and lights. He watched them die. Every time it was the same. The creature would appear from the darkness. It would open its mouth and roar. The roar was so powerful that helmets cracked and bones broke, and people fell down dead without the creature ever touching them. But notice something else. Something that happened before the roar in the seconds when the creature first saw the teams. Its body would tense. Its eyes would widen. Its legs would move into a certain position. He had seen that position before, not in an alien monster, but in a scared dog. Everyone who went down there attacked first or ran away, said slowly. No one ever tried just standing still. Minyu laughed without humor, because standing still when a 40-meter monster is charging at you is insane. Maybe, agreed, or maybe that is exactly what we need to do. The others looked at him like he was crazy. Maybe he was, but had spent his whole life around animals, from the stray dogs of to the mining creatures on a dozen different worlds. He knew what fear looked like, even when it was wearing the face of a monster. We go down tomorrow, he said, and we do things differently than everyone else. He did not tell them his full plan. He was not sure they would understand. He was not even sure he understood himself. But somewhere deep in his gut, he felt that the creature in the caves was not what everyone thought it was. He hoped he was right, because if he was wrong, he and his team would be the next names added to the list of the dead. The elevator dropped slowly into the darkness, stood at the front with his hands in his pockets, watching the walls of the shaft pass by. They were covered in small blue crystals that gave off a soft glow. Even these tiny pieces of were worth more money than most people earned in a lifetime. Behind him, his team was quiet, checked her scanning equipment over and over again. Minyu held his plasma rifle tight against his chest, whispered updates into her communicator, telling the ships above them where the team was and how deep they had gone. 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, 3. The air got warmer as they went down. It smelled like metal and something else, something alive. Breathed it in and tried to stay calm. His heart was beating fast, but he did not let it show on his face. 200 meters until we reach the bottom, said, looking at her scanner. The creature is in the main chamber, about 3 kilometers from the elevator. It has not moved in 6 hours. Sleeping? Asked hopefully. Maybe, or waiting. The elevator stopped with a gentle sound. The doors opened and the team stepped out into a tunnel carved from solid rock. The blue glow of the crystals was everywhere, making the stone walls look like they were underwater. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Started walking, the others followed. They moved in a line, their footsteps echoing off the walls. No one spoke. The only sounds were their breathing and the soft hum of the crystals around them. Kept his eyes on the tunnel ahead, but part of his mind was watching the walls. After about an hour, he stopped. What is it? Minyu whispered, raising his rifle. Pointed at the wall. There were marks there, deep scratches in the stone. Each one was as long as his arm and as deep as his finger. They had been made by something with very large and very sharp claws. The creature comes through here, said. Those marks are probably territorial, a warning to stay away. But shook his head. He stepped closer to the wall and looked at the scratches carefully. They were not random. They had a pattern. The same motion over and over again, up and down, like someone nervously tapping their foot. He had seen this before. His old dog used to scratch at the door the same way when it was scared of thunder, not trying to get out, just trying to deal with the fear. "These are not warnings," said quietly. "This creature is stressed, anxious. These marks are like a nervous habit." Minyu made a face. "You can tell all that from some scratches on a wall." "I can guess, and my guess is that this creature is a lot more scared than anyone realized." They kept walking. The tunnel got wider as they went deeper. The crystals got bigger too, some of them as tall as a person. The blue light made everything look strange and dreamlike. Checked her scanner again. 1 kilometer to the main chamber. The creature is still not moving. "Maybe it really is asleep," said. "Maybe." They walked another few hundred meters. Then the ground began to shake. It started small, just a gentle vibration under their feet. Then it got stronger. Small rocks fell from the ceiling. The crystals around them started to ring like bells. Then came the sound. It was not like anything had ever heard. It was deep and loud and heavy, like a wave of pressure that hit them in the chest. Fell to her knees. Minyu stumbled backward. Even, who had studied this sound from space for a year, grabbed at the wall to keep from falling. Stood still. The roar went on for what felt like forever. It came from somewhere ahead of them, from the main chamber where the creature lived. It was not just a noise. It was a message, a warning, a scream that said "Go away" in a language older than words. But heard something else in that sound. Under all the power and fury, there was a tone of desperation. This was not the roar of a predator hunting for food. This was the roar of a creature that expected to be hurt and was trying to scare the danger away before it got too close. The sound faded. The shaking stopped. Silence fell over the tunnel like a blanket. "We need to go back," said. Her voice was shaking. "Right now, we need to get out of here." Minyu nodded. "The girl is right. That thing knows we are here. If we go any closer, we are dead." Looked at, "What do you think?" Was quiet for a long moment. He thought about his wife and daughter. He thought about the dog he had rescued as a boy. He thought about all the teams that had come before, with their weapons and their fear, and how they had all ended up the same way. "The creature roared," he said slowly, "but it did not attack. It knows we are here, but it is still in the main chamber. It is not hunting us." "Yet," Minyu added. "No, think about it. Every video we watched, the creature attacked when people got too close. But it never chased anyone. It never hunted. It just defended its space." Was nodding slowly. "You think it is protecting something?" "Maybe, or maybe it is protecting itself." Started walking forward again. "Either way, I want to see it." Minyu grabbed his arm. "Are you insane? Did you not hear that roar? That thing can kill us without even touching us." "It can, but I do not think it will." Gently pulled his arm free. "Every team that came here responded to the roar with fear or aggression. They ran or they shot, and the creature treated them like threats because that is what they acted like." "So what are you going to do? Walk up to it and introduce yourself?" Smiled. It was a small smile, tired and sad. Something like that. He started walking again. After a moment, followed him. Then, who was still shaking but did not want to be left alone. Finally, Minyu cursed under his breath and came to. The tunnel opened up ahead of them. Could see blue light getting brighter. He could feel the air getting warmer. He could sense something massive waiting just out of sight. His heart was pounding. His hands were sweating. Every part of his body told him to run away, to save himself, to get out while he still could. But kept walking. He walked toward the light, toward the heat, toward the monster that had killed 43 people. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a small voice whispered that maybe, just maybe, it did not have to kill number 44. The creature was bigger than anything had ever seen. The hologram had not done it justice. Seeing it in person was like standing at the bottom of a mountain and realizing the mountain was alive. Its body was covered in armor that shifted and moved like oil floating on water. Black one moment, then dark purple, then black again. 6 legs held it up, each one thick as a tree and ending in claws that had carved deep grooves into the stone floor. And its face was something from a nightmare. 6 yellow eyes glowed in the blue light of the crystals. A mouth split the lower part of its head, filled with teeth that looked like broken glass. The creature saw them enter the chamber. All 6 eyes locked onto the 4 small humans. For a moment, nothing moved. The air itself seemed to freeze. Then the creature opened its mouth and roared. This was not like the roar they had heard in the tunnel. This was close. This was direct. This was a wall of sound that hit them like a physical force. Felt it in his bones, in his teeth, in the center of his skull. Screamed and fell to the ground. Minyu stumbled and dropped his rifle, grabbed her head and bent over in pain. Stood where he was. His body wanted to run. Every part of him that was animal, that was afraid, that wanted to survive, screamed at him to turn around and get away. But it spent 2 years ignoring what his body wanted. Since his family died, he had learned to live with fear without letting it control him. He took a step forward. The creature roared louder. The sound was so intense that felt blood start to drip from his nose. His vision blurred. His knees felt weak, but he took another step. Behind him he heard Minyu shouting, "Stop, come back." He did not stop. 20 meters from the creature. The roar was constant now, a continuous wave of pressure that made it hard to breathe. His body was shaking, not from fear, but from the physical force of the sound itself. 15 meters. The creature lowered its head, bringing those 6 glowing eyes down to his level. Up close, could see the texture of its armor, the tiny cracks and scratches that came from thousands of years of living in these caves. 10 meters. The creature's mouth was open, teeth shining in the blue light. One bite and would be gone, less than a bite. The creature could swallow him whole without even trying. But notice something. The creature was not moving forward. It was not attacking. It was just roaring, just making noise like a dog barking at a stranger through a fence. He took another step. The roar changed. It got higher, more desperate. The creature's body tensed. Its claws dug into the stone floor. And understood. This was not anger. This was fear. The creature was terrified. It had been alone in these caves for thousands of years. Every visitor had come with weapons. Every visitor had attacked it or run from it in fear. And now here was another one, another small soft thing that would hurt it or flee from it, just like all the others. But was not going to do either of those things. He stopped 5 meters from the creature. He could feel its breath on his face, hot and smelling like metal. The roar was making his ears ring. He could barely see through his blurring vision. Slowly, carefully, he raised his hand. Palm open, fingers spread. The same way he used to approach scared dogs back in. The same way he used to reach out to his daughter when she woke up from a nightmare. The roar faltered. The creature's eyes widened. This was new. This had never happened before. His hand moved closer. His fingers were shaking, but not from fear, from the sound, from the effort of standing still in the middle of this impossible moment. His fingertips touched the creature's face. The roar stopped. The silence was sudden and complete. It rang in his ears louder than the sound had. The creature's whole body went still. All 6 eyes were locked on his hand, on his fingers resting against its armored skin. Began to scratch. He moved his fingers gently at first, feeling the texture of the armor. It was warm and rough, like leather that had been left in the sun for years. He found a ridge where the hard plates met softer tissue. He scratched there, small circles, gentle pressure. The creature's eyes slowly closed. 2 of them first, then 2 more, then the last pair. And from deep inside its massive body, a new sound began. It was low and rhythmic, like thunder rolling in the distance. It vibrated through the floor and up through his legs. It shook the crystals on the walls and made them ring in harmony. The whole chamber seemed to hum with the sound. The creature was purring. Behind, his team stood frozen. His mouth was open, had stopped crying. Minyu had picked up his rifle but was holding it at his side, forgotten. Scratched harder. He found a spot above the creature's central eyes where the skin was softer. He worked his fingers into it, rubbing and scratching like he used to do with his old dog. The purring got louder. The creature's massive body began to relax. The tension that had held it ready to fight for thousands of years melted away like ice in warm water. Slowly, carefully, the creature lowered itself to the ground. First its front legs folded, then its back legs. Its huge body settled onto the stone floor with a sound like a sigh. Kept scratching. His arms were tired and his fingers were sore, but he did not stop. He could not stop. This moment was too important. The creature turned its head slightly, offering a new spot, moved his hands there and started working on the ridge behind its jaw. The purring changed pitch, going deeper and more satisfied. Hal whispered from behind him, "How is this possible?" Did not turn around. He did not take his hands off the creature. "It was never a monster," he said quietly. "It was just lonely. It was just scared. No one ever tried to be kind to it before." The creature opened one eye and looked at him. There was something in that gaze that had not been hours passed in the crystal chamber. Lost track of time. All that existed was the creature, the scratching, and the deep rumble of purring that filled the cave like music. Was the first to give the creature a name. She called it, after a cartoon character she had loved as a child. Said it was not scientific to name research subjects. Then she started calling it too. The creature seemed to have an endless need for touch. Every time paused to rest his arms, would nudge him gently with its massive head. The nudge was light for the creature, but it was strong enough to push back a step. He laughed and started scratching again. Minyu put away his rifle and sat down on a crystal, watching. He had not said much since the roaring stopped. His face was a mix of confusion and wonder. "I have been a soldier for 15 years, he said finally. "I have fought battles on 6 different planets. I have seen things that would give most people nightmares, but I have never seen anything like this." Was not listening. She had set up her scanning equipment and was running tests on from a safe distance. Her eyes were wide and her hands were shaking as she looked at the results. "This is impossible," she said. "According to my scanners, this creature's brain is larger than any I have ever recorded. It should be extremely intelligent, but all the previous tests showed no signs of higher thinking." Scratch behind central eyes, the purring got deeper. "What kind of tests?" "Sound patterns, light signals, chemical reactions, electromagnetic waves. We tried everything we could think of to communicate with it." "But you never tried touch." Stopped and stared at her tablet. "No, we never did. It never occurred to us." She scrolled through more data. "Look at this. When you change the pressure of your scratching, the creature's brain activity changes too. When you move your fingers in circles, the activity shifts again. It is responding to your touch like a language." Walked closer, curious but careful. "So it talks through touching." "More than that, it thinks through touching. It feels through touching. Its whole way of understanding the world is based on physical contact. Sound and light and chemicals mean nothing to it. That is why it never responded to our communication attempts." Nodded slowly. This made sense to him. He had known animals that were similar, dogs and cats that responded to touch more than words, but he had never imagined it could work on this scale. "So when other teams came down here with loudspeakers and bright lights," he said, "they were shouting in a language could not understand." "Exactly. And when they pointed weapons and made aggressive movements, understood that perfectly. Body language is universal." Minyu stood up and walked closer. He stopped a few meters away, looking at the creature with new eyes. "So this whole time, we thought it was a mindless beast, but really it was trying to talk to us, and we were too stupid to listen. "Not stupid," said gently. "Just different. No other species in the galaxy communicates this way. We had no reason to think a creature would." Opened its 6 eyes and looked at the humans around it. The gaze was calm now, curious instead of angry. It lifted one massive claw and moved it toward Minyu. Minyu stepped back quickly, his hand going to his belt where his pistol was. "Wait," said, "it is not attacking. Look at how it is moving." The claw moved slowly, carefully. It stopped a meter away from Minyu and hung there in the air, waiting. "I think it wants to touch you," said. Minyu looked at the claw, then at the claw again. His face was pale, but he took a deep breath and reached out his hand. The claw moved forward and gently pressed against his palm. Minyu's eyes went wide. "I can feel it, like a vibration, like it is saying something." "What is it saying?" asked. "I do not know, but it feels warm, friendly." A small smile appeared on Minyu's face. "It feels like hello." The next few hours were busy. Recorded everything she could. Sent reports to the ships in orbit. The ambassador demanded explanations that no one could give. Scientists from a dozen species wanted to send observation teams down to the caves. But stayed with. He scratched and rubbed and petted, learning the creature's body like a map. He found the spots that made the purring deeper and the spots that made it lighter. He learned that slow circles were soothing and quick movements were exciting. He learned that the ridge behind's jaw was especially sensitive. He also learned that it had been alone for a very, very long time. Scans put the creature's age at somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 years. For all that time, it had lived in this chamber. It had watched the crystals grow. It had felt the moon change around it, and it had waited for someone who would understand it. Every visitor had been a disappointment. They came with noise and light and weapons. They ran away or attacked. They treated like a monster and so had learned to act like one. "It is so sad," said, wiping tears from her eyes. "Thousands of years of trying to say hello and everyone just screamed at it." Pressed his forehead against its armored face. He could feel the vibration of the purring running through his whole body. "Not anymore," he said quietly. "It is not alone anymore." Made a sound that was different from the purring. It was higher and softer, with a rhythm like words. The machines went crazy trying to record it. "What was that?" Minyu asked. Shook her head. "I do not know, but I think it was trying to say something specific." Smiled. He did not need a machine to understand. He could feel it in the vibrations, in the warmth, in the gentle pressure of space against his. "It said thank you," he said. "I do not know how I know, but I am sure of it. It is thanking us for being here, for being kind, for treating it like it deserves to be treated." Started crying again. Even Minyu's eyes looked wet. Kept his forehead against his face and closed his eyes. For the first time in 2 years, since the fire that took his family, he felt at peace. He had found something worth caring about, something worth living for. 3 months after the mission to 7, Park stood in the largest room he had ever seen. The Great Hall of Unity Prime could hold 1,000 people, and today it was full. Representatives from 47 different species had come to hear about what had happened in the caves of the dead moon. Felt small standing at the center of all those eyes. Some of the aliens were tall and thin with bodies like insects. Some were short and round like balls of fur. Some had shapes that could not even describe. All of them were looking at him and waiting for him to speak. Behind him, through a window that took up the entire back wall, floated in space. The creature had refused to let out of its sight. When the humans tried to leave 7, had followed their ship. When they went through the jump gate, had gone through 2. The Galactic Union had to build a special platform just to keep the creature near the station during the meeting. Now pressed its face against the window and made soft rumbling sounds. The vibrations traveled through the whole station, making the floor hum gently under everyone's feet. The ambassador stood up first. He was tall and thin, with a body like an insect and a voice that was cold and flat. "We have gathered here to discuss an event that has no explanation," he said. "For 3,000 years, Thua was the most feared creature in known space. Our best soldiers could not kill it. Our best scientists could not understand it. We believed it was nothing more than a mindless monster." He turned his many eyes toward. Then 4 humans walked into its cave, and one of them scratched its head. Sounds of disbelief came from the assembly. Some aliens laughed, others made noises of confusion or anger. The ambassador waited for silence. "We have studied the recordings from the human team. We have analyzed their methods, and we have reached a conclusion." He paused. "Humans can do something that no other species in this assembly can do. They can form bonds with alien creatures. They can feel the emotions of beings completely different from themselves. They can respond to fear with kindness instead of weapons." A large alien covered in scales stood up. He was from the Collective, a species famous for their warriors. His voice was like rocks grinding together. "This is foolish," he declared. "Emotion and sentiment are weaknesses. They have no place in dealing with dangerous animals." Stepped forward, "May I answer?" The assembly went quiet. The ambassador nodded. Looked at the representative. "You call it weakness, but tell me something. Your people tried to deal with Thua for how long? 3,000 years. The did not answer. 43 people from 17 species died in those caves. You sent your best soldiers with your best weapons. You sent your scientists with your most advanced technology. None of it worked." Pointed at the window, where was still watching with its 6 yellow eyes. "I walked up to that creature with empty hands. I touched its face, and now it follows me like a friend. It helps protect our colony. It lets our miners work in peace. The monster that your whole galaxy could not defeat became our ally because we treated it with kindness." He let that sink in for a moment. "You want to know how humans did this? I will tell you. We did not see a monster. We saw a living being that had been alone and scared for longer than your civilizations have existed. We saw something that needed help, and we gave it help." Walked forward to stand beside. She had data to share. "Humans evolved differently from other species," she explained. "On their home planet, they lived alongside dangerous predators, but instead of just fighting or running, humans learned to understand those predators. They domesticated wolves, one of the most dangerous hunters on Earth. They tamed horses, animals strong enough to kill them easily. They formed bonds with creatures as different as elephants and dolphins." She showed pictures on the big screens around the hall. Images of humans with dogs and cats and horses. The aliens watched in silence. "This is a survival strategy that no other species developed," continued. "Humans learned that sometimes the best way to survive is not to fight, but to make friends." The debate went on for hours. Some species refused to believe what they had heard. Others were curious and wanted to learn more. A few admitted quietly that they had been wrong about Thua for all these years. In the end, the Galactic Union made 2 decisions. First, they created a new classification, domestication-capable species. Humans were the only ones to receive this label. Second, they formed a new team called the Friendship Initiative. Human experts would be sent to help other species deal with dangerous creatures across the galaxy. As left the hall, the ambassador stopped him. "You have changed everything today," the ambassador said. "Not with power or technology, with something we never valued before, compassion." Shook his head. "I just did what felt right. Any person would have done the same." "No," the ambassador said firmly. "They would not. That is the point. That is what makes your species special." Returned to his ship where his team was waiting. Through the window, watched them purring softly. "What now?" asked. Smiled. "We go home, back to 7. And," as if hearing its name, the creature pressed against the window and hummed, put his hand on the glass. Comes with us, it is family now. They traveled back to the moon together. The mining colony had grown in the past 3 months. New buildings, new people, new hope. Settled into the largest cave, right next to the crystals. The miners learned to work around it. Some of them even learned to give it scratches during their breaks. The creature purred so often that the whole moon seemed to vibrate with happiness. Continued studying language. She made progress slowly but steadily. She believed that someday they would be able to have real conversations. Minyu became head of security. He never carried weapons anymore. He said he did not need them. Stayed as communications officer. She handled the many visitors who came to see the famous human who had tamed the untamable beast. And stayed on 7 for the rest of his life. Every morning he visited. He scratched its head and felt its purr rumble through the ground. He had lost his family on Earth, but here on this small gray moon he had found a new one. Years later, a saying spread across the galaxy. Traders and soldiers and explorers from 100 worlds would share it when they found dangerous creatures. When nothing else works, they would say, send a human. They will probably try to pet it. And most of the time it worked. The monster that had scared the galaxy for 3,000 years became the proof that kindness was stronger than any weapon. And the man who had nothing to lose found something worth living for. All because he was willing to scratch a scared creature behind its ears. "You are welcome," he whispered to the creature. "You are so welcome, my friend." The purring continued, deep and warm and steady, filling the cave with the sound of happiness. Ere before. Not anger, not fear, but something softer, something that might have been gratitude. Smiled, it was the first real smile he had managed since his family died. "It is okay," he said to the creature. "I am not going anywhere. I am right here." The eye closed, the purring continued, and in the blue glow of the crystals, a man and a monster sat together in peace. He stepped out of the tunnel and into the main chamber. The blue light surrounded him. The crystals stretched up toward a ceiling he could not see. And in the center of the room, the creature was waiting. That night dreamed of a scared dog with glowing yellow eyes.